One thing that I feel would benefit me is just having like a specific place to practice because at the moment I'm kind of like all over the flat. But yeah, I've just gotten like a good stand-up desk with room underneath it to put the amp and like with the I've got like the Focusrite Scarlett thing, so I can plug that in and play with that as well. And like just setting myself up to have, I know it's like these are all superfluous things, but they all
Oh,
come
no,
up.
they're important, man. Like having everything set up makes it so much easier to practice,
Yeah,
because you don't have to like get things out. Like often
yeah,
it's even just the mental barrier of, oh, I have to set things up. Even though it's gonna take what, like a
a
couple of
minute.
minutes? Like
Yeah,
it's that mental barrier of, oh, I have to set things up that that can sometimes be enough of a block that you don't do it.
it's so weird because it's like I'm paying you so I can learn. I want to play. I love guitar.
Yeah, yeah.
Why is it so hard to practice? I feel like so many people are afflicted by this, and it's really just because like learning is daunting, right?
Oh, bro, like I have the same problem, like it's not an uncommon thing. But you're right, like learning is daunting and like yes, it's fun a lot of the time and it's also not a lot of the time. Like
Yeah.
it's cool and exciting when you discover something new, but then applying that, getting the muscle memory really sucks sometimes, Um, and but it's the process over time. Like I think this is a really really important thing to think about, right? It's like we get too caught up on the micro details of I don't want to practice this right now. It sucks. It's hard. Like whatever. But it's like actually on the macro, like we spend a little bit of discipline doing it. Like a year later, we're like way better on the instrument. We're able to have way more fun on the instrument. Like that's a good time, you know.
Mm.
And so we got to keep in mind we enjoy the macro process of learning the guitar. Like we love the moments when we do discover something new and it's exciting and we're like, wow, I didn't think about applying that way before. Like that's cool, you know. And then then we do fall into the okay, then I have to practice this. Like, and that's why kind of what we were saying earlier about kind of self auditing your practice and being like, am I being effective with this? That's where that can kind of be really helpful, I think, because it'll help you it'll keep you from getting in a rut because you're like, okay, I have to think of a different way to apply this. I have to keep this fresh.
Mm.
But um, but yeah, like I think understanding how to practice is a skill because you have to manage that whole getting in a rut thing. You have to kind of make sure you're keeping things fresh while still kind of building like overall skill. But you do that over the month, over 6 months, over a year, over 2 years, over 5 years. Like you become way, 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 way better, and you enjoy the process of learning on a macro level. You know.
Mm.
Um, I think that's the important thing to keep in mind. Like it's super easy to get caught up on the micro details of learning guitar because we're in the micro details day to day. We have to set it up to practice, right? Like we got to go through this exercise. Like you know, it's very easy to get kind of caught up in the micro details, especially if we feel like we're in a rut or something. But I think sometimes it's helpful to just kind of zoom out and think of the macro, you know. And as well, like even it's easy to kind of get caught up in the micro details of, oh my gosh, I haven't practiced much this week because I had a busy week. It's like, well, flip. Like in the context of you playing guitar for 5 years, you're not really going to care about the fact that you didn't practice much this week.
Yeah.
You know. So I
I
think
wish
that
you
kind of,
did, but
well, like, do you wish you did? Like actually though, like you wish you did that week because you didn't practice, but like 6 months from now, are you going to be looking back on that week and being like, man, I wish I'd practiced during that week? Or are you going to be like, wow, I had a really busy week, like flip, it was, I guess it was good for my mental health that I kind of just had some time to chill,
yeah.
you
To
know?
be fair, bro, the last couple of weeks I've been pretty down. So like I haven't been doing much. Like I didn't train jujitsu for 2 whole weeks. Today was my first day. And like, yeah. it's just been kind of shit, so that's why I haven't been practicing as much as I would have wanted to be.
And
Yeah,
it's
now
fine, man. Like, you know, like we've got those weeks. Like, I don't think it's helpful to put expectations on ourselves. Like when you're in the week, when you're in the moment, you're like, oh my gosh, I should practice. But like, you know, you're not going to be even thinking about how much practice you did a month out.
yeah,
You know, that's why I think it's important to have that kind of macro perspective and develop the consistency in your practice. But it's like, you know, it depends kind of what scale you're looking at as to whether or not you consider it consistent. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, if our scale is, you know, every hour, then I have not practiced guitar consistently today.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? If your scale is days, well,
once a day, 15 minutes. Yeah,
like, you know, I guess as long as you are doing that whole like no more than 2 days without practice, then you're probably practicing pretty consistently on the daily. Like, if, you know, if you're able to kind of maintain that, that's good.
mm-hmm.
But then, like, you know, say you have a week you don't do any practice, it's like, well, like, if that week becomes 2 weeks and that becomes 3 weeks, well, now you're starting to kind of get a problem. But like, if it's a week, then you zoom out and you say, okay, on the weekly, how much practice have I done? And you're like, actually, my weeks are looking pretty consistent. So it doesn't matter if you have a week off, because you zoom out and you're like, okay, on the weekly, my weeks are looking pretty consistent.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And then it's like, maybe you don't practice for like a month, like, for whatever reason. But you zoom out and you're like, okay, on my monthly, how's the months looking? Yeah, oh, my months are actually looking pretty freaking consistent. Like, maybe there was a month in the middle of a year I didn't practice, flip, there was a lot going on, you know? Like, maybe over Christmas, you know, you're on holiday, oh, there's some family stuff, heaps of functions, didn't really get much practice done that month. Okay, cool. 10 out of the 12 months of the year, you had heaps of practice.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that whole kind of, like, whenever we're feeling down for not practicing, it's like, okay, well, let's just stop and think about our consistency on a little bit more of a bigger picture. Because, like, you know, like we said, it kind of seems silly to be like, oh my gosh, I haven't practiced guitar consistently this hour. It's like, well, you know, and it's just like, okay, well, what about the daily, you know? And then you kind of zoom out and you realize, oh, if we look at this weekly, actually, I'm still pretty consistent.
Mm.
And yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.